Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ASR, African Stories Realized. This is a full recap of Adulting Season 3, Episodes 1 to 13. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Episode 1 picks up with the newlyweds, Bonga and Nkanyezi, still in their honeymoon phase, with Bonga gifting his wife a new car and the couple trying for a baby. Meanwhile, Eric seems to have cleaned up his act, with his grandmother waking him up before work before the two shared a prayer, revealing that Eric's daughter Ngumisa had been sent to boarding school. Mpho and Zutilele are not having a pleasant divorce, as the couple argued over Zitu's demands for Mpho to pay for their twins' extra lessons. Mpho was struggling supporting his two homes, with Palisa also fleecing him for every cent he had on him, claiming that their daughter was sick. Vuyani has also turned over a new leaf as he prepares for the launch of his nightclub with the support of his older girlfriend Beth. The gents and their significant others were invited to Bonga and Nganyezi's place, where Bonga was already celebrating the conception of his heir, who he ironically named Sizofik. He is yet to come. Bonga's mother, brother, and uncle were also in attendance. The newlyweds gave their guests a house tour, but received a shock when they arrived in the nursery, where Bonga's brother, Zakes, was hooking up with the maid. The following day, when the gents were playing soccer in the streets, Vuyani revealed to the rest of the guys that the opening of his club was in jeopardy because he hadn't been able to secure a liquor license. Eric paid his ex Diminkis a visit, who had some connections that could help Vuyani get his club a liquor license before opening night. Diminkis agreed to help the gents in exchange for a VIP table and an open bar for her and her friends at the opening night of Vuyani's club. On the day of the club opening, the gents arrived to support Vuyani, who had Beth by his side. Eric arrived with his therapist girlfriend, Mapaseka, and introduced her to Diminkis, who wasted no time throwing shade at Eric's new girl. They all continued with their night, but a jealous Eric confronted Diminkis when she got too close to a guy in the club, luring her to a storeroom where the two hooked up. Eric returned home with Mapaseka, but he was caught off guard and dismissed her when she professed her love for him. Mpho, who is the only single one in the group, met a girl at the club and took her home. However, after receiving a call from Zitulele about the unpaid extra lessons, he was unable to perform, which turned off the young lady he was with, so she decided to leave. Back at Bonga's place, the newlyweds were making love when Nkanyezi stopped Bonga in the heat of passion to reveal that she had received a promotion at work. The episode ends with Nkanyezi asking a disappointed Bonga to wait 5 years before having children and starting a family. Episode 2 picks up following Nkanyezi's bombshell that she got promoted and wants to wait 5 years before having a baby with Bonga. Bonga pushed back, insisting that he's not willing to wait that long, even suggesting that Nkanyezi played him for a fool. After work, the couple apologized to each other and reconciled, but it was short-lived as Nkanyezi presented Bonga with some condoms at the dinner table, doubling down on her desire to wait before starting a family. A disappointed Bonga walked away and met up with the gents at the club, where Bonga vented about Nkanyezi, and the gents agreed that 5 years was too long to wait. However, Bonga returned with an offer for Nkanyezi, a contract offering his wife 400,000 rands per year to stay home and take care of their family, twice the income her new position was offering. But Nkanyezi swiftly rejected it, and the couple remained at odds on the matter. Back at Mpho's place, he tried to get over the disappointment of not being able to get it up. Mpho then had an argument with Zitulele when he saw a man leaving her place, insisting that he had to approve all of Zitu's guests since he bought the house. However, Zitu shut him down, reminding him that he can't tell her what to do in her house. As fortune would have it, Mpho ran into his ex-girlfriend from university, Gail, and quickly set up a date with her. They met up at Vuyani's club, where she revealed she had dropped out of university so she could answer her ancestral calling. Vuyani then arrived with the three catching up, but after Vuyani left, Mpho revealed to Gail that he had 3 children by 2 women, which seemingly turned her off. But as Mpho tried to prevent her from leaving, she claimed she was going to the restroom and would be back to hear all about Mpho's children. Vuyani's nightclub opening appears to have been a success, as Beth cautioned him against getting a big head and messing around with celebrities. Later, Vuyani broke out in celebration when it was revealed that the club had already made 500,000 rands. He immediately went to Eric's place where he sent him 10,000 rands, thanking him for helping his club get a liquor license, leaving a grateful Eric in shock as the two embraced. Vuyani wasn't done spreading the wealth as he returned to his family home and had a heart-to-heart with his father before blessing him with some money as well. Back at home, Vuyani gifted Beth an expensive watch. However, she warned him about trying to impress people with money and gifts. She then questioned Vuyani about the 10,000 rands he sent Eric, reminding him that she's a shareholder in the club. Vuyani explained that he was just paying Eric for the liquor license as the couple prepared for a dinner with one of Beth's colleagues, the MEC of Economic Development, promising more business for Vuyani's club. Meanwhile, Tiki Tiki was fixing a pipe at Mapasika's place where she packed him a healthy lunch with vegetables and unseasoned chicken before dropping him off at work as his fellow employees watched on. After work, Eric got a call from Nkumisa where he complained about the healthy lunch that Mapasika had packed for her, but Nkumisa insisted that Mapasika was good for Eric, even asking him to buy her some airtime so she could call her father's girlfriend. However, after the call ended, Eric couldn't resist falling back into his old habits as he ordered some sheep's head before going out. Mapasika arrived at his place later and confronted Eric for not coming over to her place after work like they had agreed, telling him it's okay if he's not ready to say I love you back to her. Eric remained emotionless as Mapasika left in tears. He then visited a tavern in his ex-girlfriend Minky's neighborhood, where he bumped into her. The former lovers drank, played pool, and danced together before Minky took him to the back of the tavern where they hooked up once again. Later, while Minky was in the restroom, one of her friends at the tavern made a move on Eric, sitting on his lap and inviting him over to her place. However, Minky returned, and the episode ends with her beating her friend for flirting with her man as Eric watched on in disbelief. Episode 3 picks up with Eric arriving at Mapasika's place in the middle of the night. She questioned why Eric hadn't been answering his calls. Eric apologized and insisted that he had fallen for Mapasika and that he will show her with his actions as she led him into the house. The couple went on a couple of dates and slept together, but there was an awkward tension between them afterwards as Eric rushed to leave despite Mapasika insisting he should spend the night. Eric returned the next day where he met some of Mapasika's friends, with one of them flirting with him after he helped fix her car. Mapasika then paid Eric and his grandma a visit, after which Eric's grandma encouraged him to give himself to Mapasika and allow himself to love her. At Mpo's place, Gail arrived with breakfast for him, and just as they were about to get busy, a text from Zitulele killed the mood, notifying Mpo that the twins' school fees had gone up. Gail was not sticking around to find out and left as Mpo tried to stop her. Mpo then got a visit from Zitulele as they argued about the outstanding school fees, with Mpo suggesting they should enroll the twins in a public school, which Zitulele rejected, reminding Mpo that it's not their fault that he has to support two homes. Gail came back to Mpo's place later, where the couple tried to sleep together, but unfortunately he couldn't get it up and mistakenly called her by his ex-wife's name. Gail completely lost it, storming out of Mpo's apartment as he once again tried to stop her. Mpo's troubles continued when his car engine died and Eric suggested it would take up to 100,000 to fix it. Eric advised Mpo to downscale, offering to trade his car for a smaller, cheaper, but flashier car. A blue Mini Cooper convertible to be exact, which Zitulele was not happy about when Mpo arrived to pick up the twins. Mpo told the shocked Zitulele that he was enrolling the boys in public school, insisting that he will not be forced to pay for school fees he can't afford. Meanwhile, Bonga paid his family a visit and reported Nkanyezi for refusing to give him an heir. Bonga's mother, uncle, and brother were not pleased, and Nkanyezi was summoned for a family meeting. Supported by her brother, Nkanyezi tried to defend her decisions to Bonga's family, but they were not satisfied, with a fight almost breaking out between Bonga's uncle and Nkanyezi's brother after he disrespected the Tembes. Bonga then suggested that the couple takes a break if they can't reach an agreement. Nkanyezi was shocked, but decided to leave with her brother as Bonga's family tried to comfort him. The following day, Bonga paid Nkanyezi a visit and confronted her for leaving their home. but the stubborn pair refused to compromise. The gents then linked up at the club, where Bonga and Mpo vented about women and marriage. When Vuyani got home, Beth confronted him for spending 40,000 on his night out with the gents, threatening to fire him from the club and take everything away if he doesn't learn to manage his money. However, Vuyani came back, asking Beth if he could buy her out of the club, but she laughed in his face and rejected the idea. The episode ends with a frustrated Bonga arriving in a hotel room where two women were waiting to hook up with him. Episode 4 picks up at Mapasika's place, where Eric arrived after work. Just as he was getting comfortable, he received a call reporting that a robbery had taken place at his grandmother's home. He rushed home to find commotion as paramedics rushed his grandmother to the hospital as a neighbor reported what had happened. The gents arrived as Eric was out for revenge. Mapasika tried to calm him down, but the sight of his injured grandmother drove Tiki Tiki mad, almost hurting Mapasika in the process. The gents decided to go and deal with the culprits who robbed Eric's home, breaking into their room and beating them up. However, Eric had to be stopped from killing one of them by his friends. He then went to visit his grandmother in the hospital before going to work, where the police arrived to arrest him for assault. He was taken to jail where the rest of the gents were also being held, but Eric insisted he acted alone so that his friends could be released. Eric was later released on bail, with Mapasika waiting for him outside the courtroom with a stern lecture, questioning his priorities and warning Eric about his anger getting the best of him. However, Eric felt like Mapasika just couldn't relate. Minky then paid Eric a visit after hearing about the robbery at his place. She teased him about his suburban girlfriend and promised to visit again before going along her way. After being released from jail, Mpo rushed to his kid's soccer game, where he met the new man in Zitulela's life, Steve. The following day, Mpo returned to Zitulela's place for the public school documents, which Zitu refused to sign and revealed that Steve would be taking over the school fees payments. Mpo was not happy, insisting he didn't want Steve anywhere around his kids, but Zitulela insisted that it will be that way until Mpo steps up and pays for his kids' school fees. Mpo then paid a security guard in the neighborhood to spy on Zitu and keep him updated on who comes and goes at her place. Meanwhile, Vuyani hosted a lover's night at his club, with Bonga once again venting to the gents about Nkanyezi and marriage, with Mpo reminding him that he's been there and tried to warn him. Vuyani then tried to hook up with the lady he met in the club, but was interrupted by Beth, who he wrongly assumed was away on a trip. Afraid to go home to Beth, he arrived uninvited at Mpo's place, who quickly kicked him out because he was entertaining a female. Vuyani returned to Beth's place and apologized for his infidelity, but Beth was more disappointed with Vuyani's lack of discretion and control, telling him about what she went through with her ex-husband, who she helped build up before he lost it all because he got too cocky, like Vuyani is now. Beth warned him once again that he'll lose everything if he doesn't get himself in check. At Bonga's place, his family was concerned about him, but upon returning from jail, he asked them to leave, thanking them for their support but suggesting that he needed some time alone. Nkanyezi then came over with a Valentine's gift for her husband, who wrongly assumed she was back for good, as she revealed to a disappointed Bonga that she was just dropping by to pick up some of her clothes. The following day, Bonga was summoned home by his mother, where he found Nkanyezi waiting for him. Bonga's mother sided with Nkanyezi, telling him to support his wife and urging the couple to sort out their issues. Nkanyezi later returned home with her bags, insisting that she was ready to submit to her husband. However, the episode ends with her taking birth control pills behind Bonga's back after he welcomed her home. Episode 5 picks up at Bonga and Nkanyezi's place, where him and his wife are making up for lost time as they made love. However, Nkanyezi continued taking birth control pills behind Bonga's back while pretending to be the good wife. At Zitulela's place, Mpo arrived to repossess the TV, but when he returned to drop off the twins, he found Zitulela's friend, Steve, mounting a new TV that he bought for her to replace the one that Mpo took. Steve offered to stay with the twins till Zitulela got back, but Mpo refused and revealed that he disapproved of Steve hanging around his kids and ex-wife in the house that he's still paying for. Meanwhile, Eric returned to his former workplace to claim the remainder of his salary, but because he hadn't been working there long enough, they could only compensate him with 1,500 rands, which Eric disapproved of before attacking his former manager for making fun of his situation. Back at home, Eric's grandmother, who had been discharged from the hospital, questioned how things were going with Mapaseka, to which Eric revealed that things weren't going well and that they hadn't seen each other in a while. Eric's grandmother once again encouraged him to settle down with Mapaseka because she's a good woman and he's not getting any younger. The gents then gathered at Eric's place, after which they invited him out for some drinks. Eric was reluctant to leave his grandmother alone, but Minky reassured him that she'll take care of her while he's out with his friends. After drinks with the gents, a drunken Paul arrived at Zitulele's place, causing a scene trying to kick out Steve, who he believed was spending the night. The following day, an unhinged Mpo ambushed Zitu and Steve in the parking lot of their workplace, accusing them of having an affair while he was married to Zitulele. The divorced couple argued as Steve tried to keep the peace, encouraging them to sort out their issues in private before pulling Zitulele away from the altercation. The following day, Zitulele called Mpo to remind him to pay for the twins' karate classes, but an overwhelmed Mpo complained about the mounting cost of their divorce, even suggesting that Steve should cover the fees before Zitulele hung up on him. The following day, a shocked Mpo was denied access into the estate where Zitulele lives. The security guard revealed that Zitulele reported his recent harassment to the supervisor, and he was not allowed in without her permission. Meanwhile, Bonga, who had a curfew, returned home late to an angry wife who scolded him for constantly coming home late and not answering his phone when she called. Nkanyezi forgave him and invited him for a dinner gala to celebrate her promotion. A drunk Bonga agreed to go with Nkanyezi, but the following day, with Nkanyezi all dressed up for the gala, Bonga was nowhere to be seen. She called Bonga, who had completely forgotten about the gala and was at work drinking on site with his employees, leaving a disappointed Nkanyezi to attend the gala alone. Bonga returned home to find that Nkanyezi hadn't gotten back from the gala, and when he called about her whereabouts, she revealed that she took a trip to Limpopo with her friends. Bonga was not happy, with the couple arguing over the phone and Nkanyezi scolding him for behaving like a bachelor even though he's married. However, when Nkanyezi returned home, the couple embraced each other without saying a word. Meanwhile, Eric tried to apply for a loan, but they couldn't help him because he's never had a bank account and therefore didn't have a credit score. Desperate for money, Tiki Tiki returned to his old mentor, requesting any job available on the street. At Vuyani's club, he hosted a huge party for an influencer named Chili Bay, who coincidentally was also being funded by her very own MEC, or her male version of Beth, as Vuyani put it. Mpo then encouraged Vuyani to make a move on Chili Bay, who revealed her MEC boyfriend will be going home to his wife and kids, whereas she doesn't have any company. Vuyani invited himself over to her place, and the episode ends with the two hooking up. Episode 6 picks up with Tiki Tiki's return to his former life, as him and one of his associates hijacked a car under the cover of night. The following day, Nkumisa came home for the weekend as she caught up with her father and great-grandmother, also spending some time with Minky, who was looking after things at Eric's place while he was out stealing cars. However, his activities started attracting attention, with his grandmother questioning where he was getting so much money and revealing that she had a dream about him at a bloody wedding. Eric continued stealing cars, but after a close call where they had a run-in with the police, his mentor cautioned him against attracting too much attention to their operation, urging him to lay low. And it wasn't long before a detective arrived at his place, investigating the recent rise in hijackings in the area, delivering a warning to Tiki Tiki and suggesting that he's on to him. Vuyani was living dangerously as he continuously snuck off to hook up with Chili Bay after making love to Beth, with the influencer even showing up outside his place to pick him up before Beth woke up, questioning his whereabouts as Vuyani covered his tracks. Meanwhile, Mpo dropped the twins off with Zitulele but complained that she's restricting their communication, insisting that they talk through emails. He complained about Zitu to his baby mother, Palesa, as they made preparations for their daughter's birthday party, revealing that he asked Zitu to bring their kids to the party, which neither of the women were pleased about. Mpo went on to complain about Zitu to Bonga, requesting him to speak to his ex-wife on his behalf. However, when Bonga met up with Zitulele, she revealed the extent of Mpo's harassment, even sharing voice notes of Mpo insulting her, which a disappointed Bonga could not defend. At Mpo and Palesa's daughter's birthday party, Bonga confronted Mpo the clown for his treatment of Zitulele, ordering him to give his car to Zitulele in an attempt to make things right. Mpo refused, insisting that he wouldn't be told how to manage his finances, with the two friends almost coming to blows. Mpo then broke down shortly after, lamenting his current situation as the rest of the gents tried to cheer him up. However, another argument broke out when Zitulele and Steve arrived to pick up the twins, with Mpo once again confronting the couple and Palisa also joining in as a scene unfolded at the birthday party. At Bonga's place, the newlyweds were going strong, doing almost everything together. Bonga was being the good husband, even sharing his bank account with Nkanyezi, who started feeling guilty. The couple then attended Mpo's daughter's birthday party, where Bonga showcased his love for children, impressing Nkanyezi with how he handled himself. After the party, the couple returned home in good spirits, but the episode ends as Bonga finds Nkanyezi's birth control pills. Episode 7 picks up with the gents taking a trip out of town, where Chili Bay had invited Vuyani and the gents for a weekend of fun. On the way, Bonga received a voice note from Nkanyezi urging him to come back home after she woke up to find that he was gone. Bonga and Mpo then almost got into a fight with some guys after they flirted with their girls. Vuyani arrived to help Mpo pull Bonga away from the altercation as they threatened to shoot him. The gents soon arrived at Chili Bay's MEC boyfriend's vacation home, where they freshened up and made fun of Bonga for getting Nkanyezi's name tattooed on him before Chili Bay and her friends arrived. The excited gents were visibly outnumbered with enough women to go around. However, Vuyani and Bonga got into an argument after Vuyani caught Bonga making moves on his girl, despite the abundance of options. The following day, the fun continued as the ladies and gents partied on a boat cruise, drinking and dancing as they got to know each other. They returned to the place they were staying, where things got intimate. Eric hooked up with the girl he flirted with during the boat cruise. Mpo fell asleep before he could hook up with the girl he was with, and Bonga talked up two girls, but Nkanyezi's shadow loomed as they questioned him about his new tattoo. Just as he was getting familiar with one of the ladies, Chili Bay's MEC boyfriend and the owner of the house arrived. A fight ensued between the gents and the MEC security as they rushed to wake up Mpo and make their escape. Tiki Tiki gathered his things and fired one shot into the air, buying the gents time to hop into their sprinter and make a run for it. On their way back home, the gents went through a roller coaster of emotions as they confronted each other and confided in each other, with Tiki Tiki revealing that he was back living a life of crime. Mpo admitted that he wanted to get back with Zitulele before revealing the struggles he's had performing in bed. Bonga revealed that he discovered that his wife was taking contraception. However, Vuyani questioned Bonga's commitment to his marriage, and the two friends almost came to blows, with Vuyani still angry that Bonga tried to steal his girl, forcing Eric and Mpo to separate them. The gents were then able to take a breather after they were forced to make a stop due to car trouble. They reconciled and joked about their current situations. The episode ends with the four friends proclaiming their love for each other before continuing their trip back home. Episode 8 picks up at Zitulele's place, where Mpo was picking up the boys for school when Steve appeared wearing a robe. An angry Mpo confronted the couple, insisting that he decides who comes and goes in his house, because he's the one paying for it. Mpo summoned the elders for a meeting where he reported Zitulele for bringing her boyfriend around his kids in the house he's paying for. However, in a meeting with their banker, it was revealed that Mpo had fallen behind with the payments on the house and had only 2 days to pay the 50,000 on the bond. Shortly after, Mpo met a woman named Naledi in the complex where he lives, with the two immediately flirting and later going on a date. The couple got to know each other, but Mpo denied having any kids as his new flame invited him to join her on her birthday trip to the Portuguese islands. Mpo consulted with the gents, and Eric insisted it would be selfish of Mpo to go on a vacation with a stranger instead of paying the debt he owes on the house that his kids live in. However, Bonga encouraged him, insisting Mpo is free to do what he wants with his hard-earned money now that Zitulele has moved on with Steve. When Mpo dropped his kids off at Zitulele's place, she reminded him that he was on the clock to pay the 50,000 he owes on the bond for the house. However, the following day, Mpo's bags were packed as he joined Naledi on her trip to the Portuguese islands, running from his responsibilities. At Eric's place, he received a call from Nkumisa's school claiming he still owed money for school books. Minky then came to him with a plan for a heist, insisting she had an inside man who could help them steal unregistered cars. But an unimpressed Tiki Tiki laughed in her face and went to see his mentor for a job. However, His mentor insisted that it was still too risky with the cops watching them, and Tiki Tiki had too much heat on him, making him a liability. Eric went back to Minky and apologized for doubting her, revealing that he's desperate to make some money. The couple pulled off the heist and came home with a bag full of money, poured it out on their bed where they started making out. Meanwhile, Vuyani and Beth's meal was interrupted by an unexpected visitor, Beth's daughter, Mpumi, who immediately started flirting with Vuyani. She later arrived at the club where Vuyani introduced her to the gents, who were all in agreement that she was all over Vuyani. Vuyani tried to stay strong as she continued tempting him by the pool and later in his room where she explicitly asked him when they're going to hook up. At Bonga's place, he continued giving Nkanyezi the silent treatment despite her efforts to get close to him. He repeatedly pushed her away, hinting that something was wrong as Nkanyezi began to panic. Nkanyezi questioned Bonga about his recent attitude, forcing him to reveal that he knew she was taking birth control pills behind his back. Nkanyezi tried to apologize and defend herself, but the betrayal was too much for her husband. A heartbroken Bonga went out for a drive where he cried his eyes out, and the episode ends with him returning home, proposing a divorce, which Nkanyezi accepted might be for the best. Episode 9 picks up with Bonga and Nkanyezi announcing to their shocked family and friends that they had decided to end their marriage, with Bonga's uncle clashing with Nkanyezi's brother. Mpo consoled Bonga, reassuring him that he will bounce back stronger. Back from his trip in the Portuguese islands, Mpo seemed to have moved on from Zitulele and the kids as he moved into a new home and blocked Zitulele's number. After failing to reach Mpo, Zitulele paid Bonga a visit, complaining about Mpo abandoning her and the twins, claiming that she couldn't get a hold of him anyway. Bonga was caught in between the couple and promised Zitulele that he would talk to Mpo, but Mpo was unbothered, insisting that he needed to focus on himself right now, revealing to his friend that he had purchased a new home and had also found a new woman, Naledi, who was impressed that Mpo had moved into a more family-friendly home. Zitulele finally managed to track down Mpo and confronted him for ghosting her and the kids, questioning when he will pay the debts he owes, including the kids' medical aid and school fees. Mpo insisted that he was putting himself first and would pay the debts in his own time, which Zitulele was not happy about. Back at Mpo's place, him and Naledi engaged in some pillow talk, where Naledi revealed to a disappointed Mpo that she had a son, who she was eager for him to meet as they move forward in their relationship. Meanwhile, Eric bought back his car and started buying some stuff around the house. However, his grandmother was not happy with Minky's increased influence on Eric's life, which she blamed for his return to criminality. Eric insisted that Minky wasn't to blame for his return to a life of crime, but his grandmother warned him that she would be his downfall. The gents later came by Eric's place and also warned him about messing around with Minky, and he soon got a reality check during lunch when Minky started causing a scene at the restaurant. During his girlfriend's rant, Eric made a run for it, hopping in his car and slipping away. When Eric got home, he found that his ex-girlfriend, Mapaseka, had paid them a visit. She revealed that she missed him, and the couple quickly reconnected before sharing a kiss. At Beth's place, Fuyani tried to convince Beth to send her daughter away, but she insisted that Mpumi could stay for as long as she wanted. That morning, Mpumi confronted Vuyani for avoiding her and continued seducing him, tempting him once again to hook up with her. And his opportunity soon came when Beth left for a trip, with Mpumi encouraging Vuyani to seize the moment. However, Vuyani insisted that he wasn't interested and had some work to do. He left for the club where he revealed to the gents just how close he was to temptation. When Vuyani got back home, Mpumi was ready and waiting in some lingerie. She pounced on him, and the two finally hooked up. Back at Bonga's place, he said his final goodbyes to Nkanyezi as his wife moved out. There seemed to be no hard feelings, but upon receiving a voice note from a disappointed mother lamenting his divorce, Bonga was triggered, and the episode ends with him repossessing the car that he bought for Nkanyezi while they were married. Episode 10 picks up at Bonga's place, where he almost mistaken Nkanyezi for an intruder. A confrontation ensued between the couple, with Nkanyezi insisting that until their divorce is final, she can come and go in the house as she pleases. The following day, Bonga threw a divorce party at his house. The gents partied into the night with a bunch of women. Nkanyezi crashed their party and was trolled by Bonga before leaving in disappointment. The next time the couple saw each other was in a boardroom, where their divorce proceedings continued as Bonga fought to keep his assets out of Nkanyezi's grasp. The couple argued in front of their lawyers before a break was called so they could cool down. However, the couple soon confronted each other again in the boardroom. This time, the tension resulted in a steamy lovemaking session right on the boardroom table. Meanwhile, Tiki Tiki and Minky were still pulling highs together, but Eric couldn't stop thinking about Mapaseka, who he later revealed to the gents that he had hooked up with when she visited him recently. Eric was making an effort as he brought Mapaseka lunch at work. Mapaseka was impressed that Eric had packed her some of her favorite healthy foods. However, when she came by Eric's place later to drop off some home cooked food for him, she found Tiki Tiki hooking up with Minky. A shocked Mapaseka quickly rushed out of the house with Eric chasing after her. At Mpo's place, he struggled with the guilt of avoiding his kids and lying to Naledi about having kids. Mpo made arrangements with Naledi to meet her son, but after Vuyani's birthday brunch, he went to Palisa's place instead, where she scolded him for ghosting them. Mpo apologized and confided in Palisa about his fear of becoming a deadbeat dad, but Palisa reassured him that he was a good father before the couple hooked up. When Mpo returned home, an angry Naledi was waiting for him after he didn't show up to meet her son. She confronted Mpo about what he was hiding from her, forcing him to confess that he is a father of 3 kids from his previous marriage and affair. Mpo claimed he wasn't comfortable meeting Naledi's son while he was hiding his children from her. Naledi quickly forgave Mpo and gave him credit for coming clean, as the couple recommitted to each other but agreed to slow things down a bit. Mpo then went to make things right with Zitulele, apologizing for recently ghosting them before revealing that he had sold his car and presenting his ex-wife with a check to cover the twins' expenses. Zitulele told Mpo that he still has some making up to do and then allowed him to see his kids. Meanwhile, at Beth's place, Vuyani and Mpumi continued sleeping together, with Beth almost catching them in the act as Vuyani hid under the bed while Mpumi covered for them. It was Vuyani's birthday as Beth gifted him with an expensive watch and some toys for the bedroom, before throwing him a birthday bri, where Mpumi's flirtatious ways were in full display for the gents, who warned Vuyani that Beth was watching. After the bri, Mpumi was eager to get back in the sack with Vuyani, even revealing to him that she had drugged her mother with tranquilizers, which had knocked her out for the night. Despite being concerned about Beth, Vuyani couldn't resist once again hooking up with her daughter. The following day, Vuyani began to feel guilty about his affair with Mpumi after he listened to Beth on radio proudly promoting his club and publicly referring to Vuyani as her partner. The next time Mpumi tried to hook up with Vuyani, he rejected her, insisting that they should end their affair because Beth doesn't deserve what they're doing to her. Mpumi seemed to accept the breakup, but the episode ends with an angry Beth confronting Vuyani for sleeping with her daughter, while Mpumi played the victim. Episode 11 picks up with Vuyani trying to explain himself to Beth after her daughter exposed their affair. Vuyani told Beth that Mpumi threw herself at him, leaving him with no choice, and in an unexpected twist, Beth ordered her daughter to pack her bags and leave, blaming her for seducing her boyfriend. To Vuyani's surprise, Beth was being nice to him, treating him to a romantic breakfast and even telling Vuyani that she loves him. However, things quickly took a turn when Beth invited another man to join them in the bedroom, subjecting Vuyani to humiliation. Later, while Vuyani was at the club, he met a girl named Lerato and the two started flirting before leaving together and hooking up. The following day, Vuyani introduced Lerato to the gents, where she revealed that she and her friends had partied with Bonga before. Vuyani expressed to Mpo how much he liked Lerato, but Mpo warned him against getting too attached, insisting that most of the girls Bonga has been with are promiscuous. At Eric's place, Tiki Tiki chased after Mapaseka after she caught him hooking up with Minky. He tried to convince her that it didn't mean anything and that he truly loved her, even getting down on his knees and begging for her forgiveness, while Minky watched on in disgust. Later in the day, Eric packed up Minky's things and asked her to leave. Minky was not happy, accusing Eric of kicking her out because of Mapasika, as the couple went their separate ways. Meanwhile, Mpo and Naledi had a family picnic where both their kids were present. When Zitulele came by to Mpo's place to pick up the twins, she met Naledi. The two ladies had a civil interaction where Naledi gave Zitulele credit for how she's raising the twins, leaving Zitulele impressed with Mpo's new girlfriend. The following day, Zitulele warned Mpo about making the same mistakes with Naledi that he made with her, and his resolve was put to the test later that day at Balisa's place. Valissa came onto him before he pushed her away, explaining that they couldn't hook up anymore because he's trying to be a better man for Naledi. At Bonga's place, him and Nkanyezi enjoyed a second honeymoon as they continued hooking up, with Bonga promising to support Nkanyezi's career and insisting that he doesn't mind waiting to have kids until she's ready. The couple later met up for lunch, where Bonga told Nkanyezi that he was no longer interested in a divorce and wanted her to move back in immediately. However, Nkanyezi insisted that they both needed some time to think about it before fully recommitting to each other. Shortly after being reintroduced to Lerato, Bonga crossed paths with her at the mall, where he offered to give her a lift home. At Lerato's place, she slipped into some lingerie and proceeded to seduce Bonga, who resisted at first, but the episode ends with him giving in and hooking up with Lerato. Episode 12 picks up at Lerato's place, where Vuyani arrived with some flowers for her. Lerato told Vuyani that she wasn't happy with the attention he had been giving her, but he reminded her that he was in a complicated relationship that he was trying to get out of. While Lerato was freshening up, Vuyani found Bonga's wedding ring laying around and immediately confronted Lerato, who confessed to sleeping with Bonga. Vuyani wasted no time going to Nkanyezi with what he had discovered, suggesting that Bonga had a score to settle with him after Vuyani slept with his college girlfriend, who was also named Lerato. Nkanyezi then marched to Bonga's work and slapped him across the face, revealing what Vuyani had told her. Bonga went to Eric's place, where the rest of the gents were, and unleashed an assault on Vuyani, who did his best to fight back before Eric and Impo separated them. They told both guys that they were in the wrong, but Bonga was not happy with their lack of support after everything he'd done for them, cursing them out before storming off. Bonga returned to Nkanyezi, where he admitted his wrongs and apologized for his infidelity, insisting he would do anything to fix things. After his fight with Bonga, Vuyani felt like the gents were judging him and returned home, where Beth and her new boy toy were waiting. However, this time, Vuyani refused to submit to Beth, packing his bags and leaving his life with her behind. Meanwhile, at Impo's place, Naledi asked him to babysit her son, but Impo wasn't comfortable with it, revealing to a disappointed Naledi that he feels like their relationship is moving too fast. Naledi later confronted Impo about their relationship, questioning if he still wanted to be with her, even suggesting that he might be cheating. Impo then invited Naledi over for dinner, where they intended to discuss their relationship further. However, their dinner was gate-crashed by Zitulele, who dropped off the twins before Naledi arrived. Naledi suggested that Impo set some boundaries for himself with Zitulele before telling Impo to take some time to sort himself out. Naledi then refused to stay for dinner as the couple took a break. At Eric's place, Mickey returned to tell him about a potential heist. However, Eric dismissed her, insisting he would do it himself. Eric and an accomplice later made their way to the dealership to pull off the heist. However, this time things wouldn't go as planned. Just as Eric was about to steal the car, police arrived at the dealership, forcing him to lead them on a wild chase. He barely escaped the car under heavy police gunfire, with at least one of the bullets grazing him. Police searched for him in the bushes as he desperately tried to call Bonga for help. However, Bonga, who was at home with his wife, ignored his best friend's call, forcing Eric to call Mapaseka for help, who quickly arrived to pick up an injured Eric before the police found him. Back at Mapaseka's place, she treated Eric's injuries but wasn't happy that he made her come to an active crime scene. Mapaseka was ready to wash her hands of Eric. However, he broke down in tears, professing his love for her and expressing how grateful he was to have her in his life. The couple reconciled with a kiss before Mapaseka dropped Eric off at home. However, Minky arrived soon after, confronting Eric about the failed heist and his girlfriend. Eric and his grandmother asked Minky to leave, but she was offended, accusing Eric of using her. Eric doubled down, insisting that Mapaseka was the only woman for him, but Minky followed him into the kitchen, where their confrontation continued. She grabbed one of the knives and in the heat of the moment, stabbed Eric in the chest. He stumbled outside where it was raining before collapsing, and the episode ends with Minky crying over Tiki Tiki's body as he lay in a pool of blood. Episode 13 picks up where last week left off, as paramedics confirmed to his crying grandmother that Tiki Tiki was no more. The gents were notified and quickly arrived on the scene, questioning what happened to Eric as Minky was being taken away in handcuffs. A heartbroken Mapaseka also arrived on the scene, confronting Minky as she was being thrown in the back of the police car, with Bonga holding her back and comforting her. The gents then consoled Eric's grandmother and offered to pick up Nkumisa from her boarding school. Upon returning with Nkumisa, Bonga promised her that him and the gents would always be there for her. The gents then got into a heated argument after Vuyani blamed Bonga for not picking up and being there for him when Tiki Tiki called. Mpo tried to break up the gents, but all they did was cause a scene, forcing Eric's grandmother to kick them out of her home. The gents returned to their respective homes, where they continued grieving, with Mpo being consoled by Zitulele, making Naledi feel left out. On the day of Tiki Tiki's funeral, the gents came together to say their goodbyes. Eric's farewell commenced with a beautiful service that had spinning cars and a gun salute for the fallen gangster, as we were taken down memory lane with flashbacks of the gents' best moments together. At the end of the service, Eric's accomplice returned his car to a grateful Bonga, who was encouraged by Nkanyezi to fix things with his friends. The funeral seemed to have brought Mpo and Zitulele closer together as the couple consoled each other and promised to support each other through this tough period. Bonga then paid Vuyani a visit, where the two apologized to each other before Bonga surprised Vuyani with the lease to his club, allowing him to run it as he pleases and giving him freedom from Beth. The gents then went to Eric's place to link up with Mpo, where they reminisced about their time with Tiki Tiki before making a toast to their fallen friend. When Bonga returned home, he had a surprise waiting for him, with Nkanyezi revealing that she was pregnant as the couple celebrated the pending arrival of their offspring. A few months later, the gents linked up at Eric's tombstone, where they caught up with each other before Bonga received a call that Nkanyezi had gone into labor. The gents rushed to the hospital where they met Bonga's newborn son, who Bonga affectionately named Nkuseli after Eric. 3 months later, and about a year after Eric's passing, the gents linked up at Vuyani's club, where they partied the night away. The episode ends with the gents drunk on stage, making a tribute to Tiki Tiki. All 3 seasons of Adulting are available on Showmax, and we'll be back soon with more reviews. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is ASR for the love of African filmmaking and storytelling.